wanted to give you some context to the next video that I'm putting out into the world. It's a interview with Scott Pearson, who has done a ton of Star Trek work, both on the page and behind the scenes. He has an amazing collection of Star Trek books that are behind him for the entire interview. I kept getting distracted by the books. On top of that, I had a thunderstorm happening outside my window, which was causing electrical interference. And I think he was about as far away as he could get from his Wi-Fi point and still have access to internet. So there's a few points that we talk over each other, and we stumble over like the conversation, and it gets really awkward. And it's going to look like everything's fine on my end, and but that's because I'm recording it locally. From his end, I'm probably just as like awkward looking and audio all over the place. And I want to let you know that like we're equal parts in the audio desync issue here, and we shouldn't blame him for any of the stuff that's happening here. The other thing that I wanted to say is that this conversation actually happened about 2 weeks ago, back at the beginning of July, and I have really slacked on getting these interviews packaged together and put out into the world. And I've only got about a week until the show. And the other reason I'm actually disclosing that is that I say a few times in this interview, oh, hey, we still have like 2 or 3 weeks until the show. That's not true. That's a lie. We have exactly 6 days from the point that you read this or see this that until the show actually happens and I start like broadcasting stuff on Twitch, which is going to be a blast. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I won't do Twitch. Maybe I'll just like record the videos and then package it into a thing and then release that after the show. I don't know. What's the point of having a Twitch account if I can't stream it on Twitch? I don't know. I've gone way off the rails on what I wanted to talk about in this quick intro video. Anyways, enjoy the conversation I have with Scott. He's an amazing guy, and I really appreciated the time that he gave me to talk to him.
Is a system for just sitting down and generating a story by yourself and just brainstorming and but using some dice, having some random things happen. And I actually haven't played it yet. I need to. But yeah, so I've been editing with them from the beginning. I started working with them before the game came out.
Yeah, it feels like it was just yesterday that they started doing that, but it's probably been a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. It's been like 6-7 years, I think, maybe more.
Yeah, and I think your title with them, last I checked, was
I have kind of
something manager, canon manager was the title that I saw.
canon reviewer, yeah. Or canon editor.
Right.
Yeah. So my remit with them is to just read through everything they send me, and if I find anything that I think breaks or bends canon too far, I make a note, I make a suggestion, I say, what about this? Because it's it's part of the license. When you get the license from CBS, like the Simon and Schuster novels or the game, you have to maintain as close as possible continuity with the established filmed version of the franchise.
Right.
And so you can't, make up a new brother for someone. They can make up new brothers as much as they want on TV and in the movies, but
right.
When you're in the books, you no.
Yeah, or new sisters, as Discovery has done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Shore Leave, how long have you been going to that show for?
I first went in 2006, and that was when I had my second Strange New Worlds short story. Came out in 2006. They had started a tradition during the Strange New World years, the anthology years, where they would invite all the Strange New Worlds writers to come to Shore Leave. and my first Strange New World story came out in 2004, and so I was invited, but like you mentioned earlier, the finances didn't seem to quite come together for the trip. I'm in Minnesota, so it's the flight, hotel, the whole thing.
Yep.
But then a couple years later, when I had a second story published, then it seemed like, okay, something's happening here. This would probably be a good networking thing. I should really go meet people. And so I went and, got to meet a bunch of the writers and got to meet Marco Palmieri, who was the head editor of the line at that time. And then that's what got me, then I got invited to pitch for the Next Generation 20th Anniversary Anthology. And, so going there and meeting Marco probably, that helped me move up from the Strange New Worlds stuff into the primary line.
Right, and you're one of the few authors that have an ebook only novel that was released. Well, novella. I think it was a shorter one.
A novella length.
Yeah.
The More Things Change.
Has that ever been collected in any physical form anywhere?
Nope. There's a few. There's a few of those ebook only things sort of straggling out there that never got collected. There was never really an intention for the one that I did to be collected in anything. It wasn't like Corps of Engineers or something where they were definitely, collecting them and putting them out in print. So they were trying an experiment to just do some ebook only stuff, and but then I just don't think that they saw the sales on those that they wanted, and so then that experiment was over.
Right. Yeah, I do remember that.
And so there's a handful of us that did those ebook only novellas.
Right, and like just off your shoulder there are the collected Corps of Engineers books, which the physical copies of those are just absolutely amazing. That's actually that's how I experienced them, because I never really got into them when they were just doing the ebook only. But then those big omnibuses came out, and man, those are hefty books to read.
Yeah.
So, do you know what your schedule at Shore Leave is going to be like, or do you have a like a typical schedule that you have up there?
This year, I think I'm only on 3 panels, and I haven't. They haven't released the specific schedule yet,
right.
But I've got a few panels that I'm on. They're doing a better. Several years ago, the panels were so many of the panels were done by the Star Trek author writer guests, and they decided that they needed to even it out a little bit more, and because you can only fit so many panels into a weekend, and so they have a better balance between the rest of the fan panels and then the panels that us Star Trek writers are on, and so or not just the Star Trek writers, but all the writer guests, and so it's a mad dash amongst like 40 writers to get on the panel they want and keep the panels to a manageable size, because once you get beyond 4 or 5 people on a panel, it gets crazy. People don't have enough time to talk, so it's always a like this frantic behind the scenes process as we're all trying to get Shore Leave organized.
Yeah, the process of building those panels can't be too enjoyable. In that, like, having to pick and tell people that it's full already. You're gonna have to go to the lesser panel that's happening next door.
Yeah, it is crazy, and you want to get on stuff that you like, but you want to be fair to people. You want to not get too many people on a panel. I'm just the people that do the work at the con, I just the amount, the craziness trying to put that all together. I just it's hard to believe that it comes together so well because that's just a monumental task.
Yeah, back in my college days,
But
we ran
yeah, I
a
said that I
small.
had first went.
Yeah, I think we got a bit of a delay. I'm sorry.
Oh,
But yeah, that, I know firsthand
go.
that some of these how hard these conventions are to put together.
Yeah. So I said that I first went in 2006, and I haven't gone every year since. I've missed a handful here and there due to usually financial things where it just seems like I can't really afford to go this year. But I try to go as often as I can because it's so much fun, and of course uh, the gang of writers of Star Trek writers, we've all gotten to be good friends over the years, and it's the only time that I see them because most of them are on either the East Coast or the West Coast. I'm here in Minnesota, so I have to go somewhere to a con to see them.
Right. Yeah, I've spoken to a few other authors by now, and they all have that same kind of like it's like the Captain's Table series that they did, where it's just like people come in, they go out, everyone's here, they're having a good
Yeah.
time. You see all your good friends, until the next year. Um, so you've done the short story anthologies. You've done a ton of work for the Star Trek Adventures. Checking out your website, I noticed that you're pretty deep into the I want to say Dracula, and is it just vampires right now, or are you into like all of the classic monster stuff?
Um, I'm a big fan of the classic Universal monster movies, but I'm also the original novel Dracula and Frankenstein are both a couple of my favorite novels since I was a kid, and so yeah, I love the Universal versions. I'm a big fan of the Hammer films, and
Hmm.
that's what I've been blogging about recently. Is the Dracula series from Hammer. Um, yeah, so yeah, those classic monsters. I've got you know I don't know a couple different versions of I mean I've got several different editions of Dracula because there's various annotated editions. Same with Frankenstein. I have multiple editions that have annotations and texts about the novel and about Mary Shelley. And yeah, I'm a kind of a nut for that stuff. I'm not just a nut for Star Trek. I'm a nut for all sorts of things.
Right. Yeah. Universally, everyone has a thing also with Star Trek. And what's fantastic about that is when they're able to like merge the two of them, like their two passions, either it be like westerns and Star Trek, or the horror monster stuff. Which have you read the Halloween miniseries that IDW put out last year? It was fantastic,
No,
and if you're a fan of those types of stories, it'd probably be right up your alley. The gentleman that did the covers for it has done a whole bunch of Universal monster artwork in the past. Uh, but you're about to have a good couple years then as
oh,
a fan
cool.
of those franchises, because Guillermo del Toro has a Frankenstein film that's coming out that's supposedly like strongly adapted from the book. And then there's a Nosferatu, or Nosferatu. I'm mispronouncing the word, unfortunately.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, Nosferatu. Right. Yeah. And we just got a trailer for that one, and I was like, do I like this? I don't know. I don't think I've even seen the original version of that, because that was a an original concept based off of Dracula, if I remember correctly.
It excuse me. The original silent film version,
Hmm.
uh, Bram Stoker's widow sued the filmmakers because it was a unauthorized adaptation of the novel. And but yeah, it's really good. It's a classic silent film. And then there was a remake of it in the '70s, starring Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu. It was an incredibly dark, bleak movie. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with this new version. You know, there's been various versions. I can't remember the name of it. There was a version. Uh, there was a movie where the idea was that Max Schreck, the actor who played Nosferatu in the silent film, there was a movie made where the idea was that he really was a vampire. And so it's like the
Okay.
making of the movie, but he's actually a vampire. I think Eddie Izzard was in that. Uh, that was good. So I mean, obviously there are so many vampire based films you could just watch those nonstop for your whole life. But um, yeah, it is another genre that I am fond of.
Yeah. Have you written in that genre?
Let's. I have not had anything published that's got a vampire or a Frankenstein creature in it yet. I have various ideas,
Right.
um, but I haven't taken them. I haven't brought them to fruition yet.
Well, like I said, I'm always a fan of seeing official or unofficial, like just crossovers of various things, because I think that's how we get some of our better stories, right? When Star Trek does westerns, or when Star Trek does a race, or when Star Trek does,
Yeah,
like a murder mystery, or Sherlock Holmes, even like we got some of our best villains and episodes of Next Generation when they were like, oh, we're gonna do it this way.
yeah, I love doing genre mashup
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Now, did I see that you either had a Kickstarter or you just supported someone else's Kickstarter? I just have the idea in the back of my head that I saw a Kickstarter on your website.
Oh, I have a story in a Kickstarter anthology that's coming out,
Okay.
and it is called the Multiverse of Mystery. I'm concerned I'm getting the title slightly wrong off the top of my head, but it's all Sherlock Holmes stories.
Okay.
But you know, they're but they can be as wild as you want them to be. You know, Sherlock Holmes could be a robot, he could be a dinosaur, he could be, it's like we could do whatever we wanted. My story is actually fairly straight, um, but is sort of Lovecraftian, because again, getting back to that mashup, I wanted to take Sherlock Holmes and sort of Lovecraftian creepiness, and I put them together, and I changed uh, Watson's story a little bit. So Watson is a little bit of a slightly different character. He's got a slightly different backstory, but Holmes is pretty much just Holmes, Doyle's Holmes. Had a lot of fun writing that. I don't think that comes out until late this year or early
Hmm.
next year. I can't remember.
Do you know if the Kickstarter's still open for that?
No, it closed. It got fully funded, and
Nice.
so yeah, that was done. Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see when
I have not.
kick-
Yeah, I haven't gotten up the courage to try to do one of my own. That just seems too overwhelming. But I was happy to be a part of this, to be able to contribute to it.
Now, did they approach you, or were you friends with someone that was already in it, and they you asked to be in it?
Oh, this is being put out by the International Association of Media Tie-in Writers.
Okay, I'm familiar with the group.
And so, yep, and of course I'm a member because of my Star Trek writing, and uh, they've decided, the powers that be in the association uh, have decided that we are going to try to do anthologies. We did one previously called Turning the Tide, TIED, and now we've got this new one coming out. And in Turning the Tide, I had a H.G. Wells story where I mashed together um, primarily the Time Machine and a little bit of the War of the Worlds and the Invisible Man. Kind of, I brought the main character from the Invisible Man and the Time Machine together, and tried to write it so that it would that you could imagine that it could fit into a continuity of all three of the novels, and had a lot of fun doing that. And so I was invited to pitch for the new anthology, and was happy to make it in because it's a big, there's a lot of writers in the association, and so we can't all be in every anthology that they do. Um, but it was really great to see this one succeed as a Kickstarter.
Right. I actually had no idea to ask, but how many people are actually in that association?
I don't know, but it's anyone who's had licensed tie-in fiction published is eligible to become a member. So, a lot of the Star Trek writers are in there, but then it's people who have done comic books or who have done games, role-playing games. I mean, anything where it's a licensed property,
Hmm.
or people who've done. Well, there's a lot of overlap, but it's like if you've done a movie novelization, that would make you eligible to become a member. And so I don't remember, or perhaps don't even know what the exact number is, but uh, far more than could ever be in a single anthology. Let's put it that way.
Right. Now, other than just like obviously most of the authors that are going to be at Shore Leave, they're going to be represented. But is the association going to have anyone that represents just the association?
No, I don't think that we're doing any specific event at shore leave. They usually do. The association puts out awards every year, in a variety of categories within tie-in fiction, and then they usually have a table or booth or however it works at San Diego Comic-Con, or they do a panel or something, and then they announce the winners of the various awards there. But I don't know that if they've ever done um, specific events at other cons.
Okay. Yeah,
Since I'm, in the Midwest here,
right.
my opportunity to be involved is not, you know,
Right. They'd
the
love to
exciting
have you, but
things
it would
happen
probably
on the
cost a penny to
coasts.
get there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always an email that goes out that says, who's going to be at San Diego Comic Con this year? It's like, well, not me.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the shows that's on my bucket list, but it's a bit of an investment to go from the East Coast all the way out there. I could probably swing it if like I saved up for a couple years,
Yeah.
but it's a big one. So, what kind of panels have you done in the past at Shore Leave?
Oh boy, I mean, there's been lots of different kinds. We used to do um, a regular new Star Trek books, upcoming Star Trek books, um, and that was, I mean, way back in the day, editors from Simon and Schuster were attending the con, but then there's been a lot of editorial turnover, and that kind of faded away. And then for a while, we kept doing it on our own, the authors and myself. Um, but lately, when the since the pub schedule for the Star Trek books has been a little bit slow the last few years, there's just not really much to do for a panel,
Right.
because we focused on the novels, uh, but so yeah, you said that you've never been to Shore Leave. This is going to be your first year.
Yeah, this is the first one.
There's in, yeah, incredibly wide variety of panels. I'm trying to remember what panels I'm on this year. One of them is a Sherlock Holmes panel. Um, so it's, even though it kind of, even though the con gets its name from the Star Trek episode, and Star Trek is a pretty strong presence there, but you get everyone. There's always big contingents of Star Wars people. There'll be stormtroopers going around. There's always at least one R2D2 that's going around, and there's but then there's Klingons. There's the cosplay is pretty amazing, and the panels run the gamut. Any current sci-fi or fantasy TV show is likely gonna have a panel.
Mm-hmm.
And but there also will be retrospective type panels. People will be looking back on whatever, some favorite show that hasn't been on for years, and there'll be how-to panels. There's how to write panels. There's just anything there. Once you get there and you get the schedule, it becomes a challenge. It's like, well, how, because invariably there's going to be something that's opposite something else where you really
Right.
want to
Two
be at
competing things that I
both of
really
them.
should go to.
And so you will see.
Yeah, this is my first year, but it's also going to be pretty much everyone else's first year at the venue. Because from what I understand, they shut down the old hotel,
Yes.
and it's going on to the hotel farm upstate, and this new place is the
Yep.
new one for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad I'm going to get to be there in the inaugural year. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it because it's not as easy to get to as the previous location was. Uh, and so at first I didn't know if I was going to make it, but decided to go for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing the new place and seeing everyone, seeing all my old friends. We'll get to meet in person.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully both for the panels, and I can throw some softball questions at you about the depth of Star Trek books. But well, yeah, that it's coming up quick too. It's only about what, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks away. And I've already got everything all
Yeah,
lined up.
it
I
has come
paid
up
my
too
wife
fast.
I paid my wife a, travel agent fee just to. I was like, I did just figure it out for me, and she loves scheduling things like that. So I was like, here you go. My present to you: some money and a weekend without me around. So she's gonna have control of the Netflix
My wife is coming with me. She's not a genre geek at all, um, but she really wanted me to go, and I was saying, "Oh, I'm not going to." Well, for many years, my daughter, who's as super geeky as I am, she started attending the convention with me, and so
remote.
my daughter and I would go to the con, and she's not able to go this year. So I thought, well, I'm going to be traveling alone to this place I've never been to. It's got a whole like planes, trains, and automobiles thing to try to get to this place.
Yep.
And I'm a bit of a nervous traveler, and I was just like, I just don't think I can do it. I can't deal with taking a plane and renting a car and taking a bus and a train. It was just, I was getting too overwhelmed, and and luckily for me, my wife stepped in and she said, I really think you need to get there. Let's do a road trip. And so we'll be taking off from here a few days before the con starts and having a fun cross country drive, and then she'll get to see. She went a couple times way back in the day, but it's probably been, at least, boy, 15 years since she's been there. So she's met some of my friends there once or twice, but then there's also people that she's never met that she'll get to meet for the first time. And so yeah, it'll be great.
It sounds like we have similar situations then, because I was also doubting. I was like, "Ah, it's just you got to make the airplane, and then you got to do this, and you got to do that." And of course, like my town is small enough that flying out of this city is three times as expensive than if I drove 3 hours east and flew out of
Uh-huh.
Jacksonville. And
Yeah.
of course, I don't know the ins and outs of this kind of stuff. And she's just like, "Oh, well, you just do this, you do that, and let's compare these 6 or 7 different airlines because some of them do baggage and some of them don't. And this one you can check in beforehand, but if you do it there, it's like 3 times as much." And I'm like, I just need someone to like put me in a rocket and shoot me over there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's what my daughter has been for me because,
Hmm.
I mean, when she first started going to the con, she was, just a kid, but, then she grew up and is this very smart, savvy traveler. And so the last several years when she's come with me, it's like, she books the tickets and, she takes care of stuff, um, and is very patient with her nervous traveler dad. And so yeah, so when she wasn't going to be going this year, yeah, it was just like I can't go, I can't handle it on my own.
Right. Like,
um,
what's the reason of even going if
but yeah,
I'm not
as I
going to have
said, my
someone to
wife
go with?
stepped in and saved me.
All right. Well,
Yeah, well, and I'd have everyone,
I've taken up about 30 minutes of your
go
time. Do you
ahead.
still have more time to talk, or do you want to just take this time that we've had?
uh, I can talk for a little while longer.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So is she just off living her
I hope
life,
you're
or she
getting.
got the?
She's yeah, yeah. Well, and she was planning on taking some. Um, she's got a friend that is in Sweden, doing some sort of study abroad in Sweden, and she and her boyfriend were thinking of going and visiting her.
Hmm.
Or they were also thinking, and maybe instead they were going to go visit this other friend who's, living in California or something. But anyway, she had one or two other possible trips, and so financially, she was, it just wasn't realistic of her to think that she's going to go to shore leave as well on top of these other
Right.
trips, and it's kind of killing her to not go to shore leave because, especially these last several years, like I said, when she first went to shore leave, I think she was 12 or something when she first went to shore leave, but now she's in her mid 20s and she's just one of the gang. That was, she had to do that, you know, awkward but kind of fun transition from being the kid to being the adult.
Yeah.
When she started going there, it was like, okay, time for you to go to the room and go to bed. Dad's going to the bar, and now she comes to the bar with everyone,
Right. Yes, I do
and she,
remember the first few
just
times I
really
had
gets to.
some drinks with my parents. It was very much a like, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I allowed to be doing this? I guess it's legal, but there's something like there that it takes a minute to get past.
Yeah, well, and it was also, all of my friends that remembered her because she didn't go every year with me. So all my friends, would, like you tend to do, you think of the kid as that age when you first met them.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly there came the first year where she was, able to come into the bar and have a drink with the gang. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And they've all just, taken her in. Well, she refers to them as her various Star Trek aunt and uncles,
Ah,
all of my Star Trek writer friends.
right. Yeah,
And
it
so she's
sounds like
got,
you guys all
you
have a
know,
good
all of them.
yeah, good author family that enjoy seeing each other from time to time.
Yeah, the it's the core group started with the Star Trek people, but then there's also a larger group of a lot of the Star Trek authors are in New York, and then they have lots of friends who are writers, even if they're not, they might be Star Trek writers or not Star Trek writers. And it's a big group. Well, and over the years, with various anthologies and Corps of Engineers and stuff, there are a lot of people who have written Star Trek, even if they've only written, like a handful of things, like myself, uh, or the people that have written dozens and dozens of books, like Dave Mack and Dayton Ward and Greg Cox.
Right.
And so it's this one big extended Star Trek family.
Yeah, I when I sent the list of people that I was interested in talking to the Shore Leave folks, I was like, look, I'm using like the broadest possible. Like if they've printed a single word about Star Trek, official or otherwise, like I don't want to talk to them because one, I want to get in front of their faces and so they know who I am when I show up, and I'll be like, who are you? Well, we've talked. And one of the authors, she said, I've only been published in one of the anthologies, and I told her what I've said to you tonight too, is that your connection to Star Trek, we already know that. Like we know that we've got like that Star Trek connection, but what are the other connections? Like we got authors that they also do Star Wars stuff. It sort of makes sense. But then we got authors that do cowboy mysteries. We got Star Trek authors that are dog trainers. We have Star Trek authors that enjoy the Sherlock connections and the vampire connections, and it's just interesting to me to see how that web comes together and what shakes out of it.
Yeah.
So I told her, of course, I'm going to talk to her next week, and it's going to probably be a fantastic conversation too.
And who is that, if I may ask?
I want to say your name is Amy Sisson.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Amy's great. Uh, yeah, yeah. I'm very happy that she's going to be at Shore Leave this year. She wasn't at Shore Leave for many, many years. I first met her, I don't know, I can't remember how long ago. Um, and then she wasn't at the cons for quite a few years. But then last year she was back for the first time, and it was great to see her. And I had only seen her once over the years. Um, she's a big hockey fan, and she and her then husband were came to Minnesota one year because there was a some big hockey tournament here that they wanted to come see, and so we got to see them. We got to have them over the house for dinner and see them. And they brought along a friend, uh, and oh gosh, I'm blanking on his last name. Anyway, they brought along a friend who's an astronaut, a space shuttle astronaut, and Amy knows, that I'm a huge space program geek, and she had a lot of fun springing that on me, because we had these plans for her and her husband to come over for dinner, and then just a couple of days before they were going to be here, she called and she said, "Oh, I know this is really an imposition, but there's this friend tagging along with us, and it would be so awkward if we left him alone, when we're having dinner. Is there any chance that he could come with?" She really milked it like it was going to be this horrible imposition. And then she, And we're like saying, of course he can come. And then she drops, oh, by the way, he's an astronaut.
Ah,
So God, I'm like blanking on his name. It's embarrassing. And he, like all astronauts, is a Star Trek fan. And so I took him. This was in a different house, but so I took him to what was then my Star Trek wall, and I got to watch an astronaut play with some of my Star Trek toys. He
what
was
a
picking up
trip.
things off the shelf, like, and yeah, it was great. So you can ask Amy about the time she brought an astronaut to my house.
I definitely have that note now. Yeah, I also I think there's a pretty good Venn diagram of Star Trek and NASA and space fans. But yeah, I've got let's see what we could do the no, it's this way, right? Yeah, we got a Star Trek Lego set there, and then the wall over here is all my comic books, and in front of the comic books are the Saturn V uh, Lego system, and then they did the moon lander, and I got the moon lander sitting over there as well. Because that's the
I
crossover for me is Lego.
Yeah, I've got a lunar module and the small ISS Lego, but I really did want that Saturn V, but it was so, it's so expensive
Right.
and so
Yeah, I believe
big.
that was a birthday present for me from my wife. And
Nice,
what was crazy is it
nice.
comes with like 1,600, no, 1,965 pieces, which I believe was the year that it first launched. Which I was like, man, that's such a great like in joke for it.
Yeah, yep, I'm a big Lego fan. If I were rich, I would add a room onto the house for the Lego display room, and I would buy a crazy amount of Legos. But I'm
Right,
not rich, so I have to control myself.
right, yeah. Whenever they do the architectural sets, those are the ones I like to take to work with me because people walk in, they're like, oh, it's Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's cool. It's not like a 3 foot long enterprise, which I would love to have there, but that's my
Yeah,
baby. I'm still intimidated enough not to build that yet. Have you used or have you seen any of the Blue Bricks sets that they're releasing out of Germany?
I'm sorry, the audio cut out there. What was that?
Sure. It's a company called Blue Bricks out of Germany that are doing Star Trek
Oh
plastic sets.
no, I have made a vow to myself to not get. It's like I only buy Lego products, and it's not because I have anything against the other companies. It's just a way to control my spending
Right.
on Star Trek stuff.
Right. And
If
that
Lego
was
ever got the Star Trek license, I'd be in trouble.
yeah, and that was my original intent where I was like, I'm only going to buy Star Trek books, not the movies, not the calendars, not the like any of the like the extra, the sets. I got them on digital. I don't need to buy any of that other stuff. But the problem, of course, is that if you buy lots from like eBay or Goodwill or anything like that, that you get your 6 books, but you also get a laser disc, and you also get a calendar, and you also get trading cards, and then you're like, well, what am I going to do with this stuff? I could take it to the local Star Trek fan club. I'm sure that plenty of my friends there would love to have some of it. But it's kind of cool to have a laser disc of the original
Yeah,
series back when they were on like one episode each side. I don't own a laser disc
yep,
player, but I
yep.
have about half a dozen laser discs now. But Star Trek's actually why I bought a record player because I got a whole a bunch of the original series LPs came with a collection of books that I got from Goodwill, and I was like, well, I've got I've got the records. I, I'm curious to see what they sound like, and of course they're all on YouTube. I could have just gone to YouTube, but no, I had to take that snowball collection theory just to its logical end and get the record player and buy the styluses for it. And set it up on the
Yep.
computer so I can listen to it through the computer, and projects upon projects.
Yeah, I'm really trying to stop buying. I mean, I get the books because I mean that's a professional thing, but
Hmm.
all the other stuff I'm trying not to buy anything more because I mean if I can, let's see here. I'm gonna tip this a little bit. See if I can lift
Wow, that
this
goes
up.
all the way up, doesn't it?
So it goes all the way up. The top shelf is action figures, and it goes all the way down to the floor. It's it's crazy.
And are those magazine
Um,
boxes that I saw on the floor?
yeah, those are full of comic books and magazines.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I've got a lot of, I mean, it is exclusively the Star Trek wall. It's everything here. The only thing that's not Star Trek specifically is the collection of shore leave programs, but that's close enough that
Right.
they can exist on the Star Trek wall. But
Yeah, it gets the
everything
pass.
else, all Star Trek, CDs, CDs, CD-ROMs, all the, a bunch of computer games, all sorts of models and toys and little goofy things, and the shelves are full. I'm gonna have to start rearranging things to make more room as more books come in. I mean, just the Modifius books take up about 2 feet on the shelf now. I tease Jim Johnson, the guy that manages the Star Trek Adventures game, that he keeps putting out more books. I was like, dude, you're overflowing my shelves.
Yeah,
But
those are really pretty books too. Just the
it's yeah,
construction of them.
I've been a Star Trek fan. Oh yeah, the layout, the internal layout, the cover art, everything. Yeah, it's really well done. But yeah, I mean, I've been a Star Trek fan for over 50 years because I fell for it hook, line, and sinker for the original series when it was on in syndication in the early 70s when I was like in second grade. And I've just been a raving fan ever since. And yeah, and I'm lucky enough that I actually get to work on it in various ways.
Yeah, truly the dream job.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
All right. Well, I think that we can wrap it up here. It's been an absolute pleasure
Okay,
speaking to you. I do look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
I'll be keeping an eye out for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty hard to miss. I'm actually 6.5 feet tall, and my hair's actually falling down right now, but I usually have it up in a mohawk. So
So
if you
you're
miss me,
you're
that'll
six
be
and a
the
half feet tall, 7 feet with the hair.
right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, when I joined
Okay.
the local Star Trek fan club, they were like, "Oh, thank God we got another Klingon in the room," and I was like, "Ah, yeah." I still haven't gotten dressed up yet though.
Yeah, I've never been into cosplay. I love the cosplayers. It's not something I'm interested in doing myself, but I love seeing the people dress up. I hope you got some usable footage with our
Absolutely. Yeah.
shabby connection that we have here. I'm out, I'm in the country. I live out in the woods,
Hmm.
and when I'm in my office, I'm on Wi-Fi that reaches my office from the house. I have a detached office, and some days it's great, and some days it's not.
Right. Yeah. I
And
mean,
today it's been kind
technology,
of
man.
middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through and try to clip out some of the technological like pauses that were there. But yeah, definitely, it was a great conversation. I hesitate to call them
Yeah, it was a lot
interviews
of
because
fun.
I'm not really like coming at it as a I'm looking for information from you, man. What do you got for me? That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But it's always great to talk to the authors, like see what else they're doing, like see what they're going to be doing at shore leave, because that's how I'm dealing with my anxiety of flying alone, driving alone, and getting the hotel alone. I've got at
Hmm.
least a dozen people that are expecting me there, so if I don't show up, maybe someone will be like, "Hey, whatever happened to that guy? Did he ever come show up?" It kind of gives like the motivation to actually be there.
I lost you again for a while.
Yeah, that's all right. Um, I'll see you in a couple weeks. All right, man.
Yeah, great. Thanks. See ya.
All right. Have a great evening.
You too.